We're in RFK in Washington, D.C., and right now here with Gilby Clarke of Guns N' Roses. I want to remind you at 9 p.m. special Guns N' Roses, past, present, and future. And you're part of the present and future of Guns N' Roses. And it's got to be like a trip for you to be taken kind of, I'm not saying from nothing.
It was nothing,
but taken
though.
from doing okay in L.A. and now to be put in like the biggest rock and roll band in the world.
Basically, they bribed me. They made me do it.
It was a real tough one, right?
Tough decision, you know, to go from the clubs and stuff to doing this. It was hard.
And is it pretty much a trip? I mean, it's, you know, you didn't really have to go through that process. I mean, Gilby, I know you've been in a lot of other bands and had to go through the process of trying to climb up the ladder, but you went basically from here to like there in one day.
10 years of struggling, 6 months of cheating, and just right there, right to the top.
Has it been pretty wild? Been a roller coaster?
Oh man, this is great. This is like everything you've ever heard of, like the Rolling Stones used to do back when we were growing up. This is it. This is the top.
Well, right now, let's play a video that you got to be your first Guns N' Roses video in, pretty much.
Yeah, it was my first one.
And my first Guns N' Roses video.
That's right. You were the co-star, right?
Oh, sure, Gilby. Here's November Rain, Guns N' Roses.
The always interesting Mr. Long-awaited arrival in court, Rose was told he would be allowed to tour with Metallica this summer on $100,000 bond, as long as he didn't get into any further legal trouble anywhere. It was an anticlimactic end to a mini-drama that began on Sunday when Rose was arrested at New York's JFK International Airport after disembarking from a Concorde flight from Europe, where he'd been vacationing with his girlfriend, model Stephanie Seymour. However, although Rose was set loose by the St. Louis judge, he was also told to be back in town for a trial on October 13th, and while in court, he was also served with civil lawsuits by concertgoers who claimed they'd been injured during last summer's riot. Will all this legal turmoil be weighing on Rose's mind when the Guns N' Metallica tour gets underway in Washington, D.C. this Friday night? We asked Rose's partner, guitarist Slash, and here's what he had to tell us.
Axl's fine. I talked to him yesterday. He's dealing with the logistics of this guy in St. Louis, and I don't want to say anything that's going to put the band in a weird position, but the guy's an asshole.
But apart from that,
all right, so he's dealing with him, and he's got a good attitude about it.
With Flying to Pieces, obviously this tour is happening. Guns N' Roses are sound checking, doing Coma in the background right now. And right now, let's play a video from another band that's playing this monster tour. Here's Metallica with Enter Sandman. We're here at RFK Stadium in Washington, D.C., here with Duff. And in about 5 minutes, we're going to see a brand new special, Guns N' Roses, past, present, and future. And we're talking a little bit about this tour. And you mentioned earlier that it was just kind of a thing that the bands kind of put together, that you guys said to Metallica or vice versa, let's just do this whole tour. Now, what type of problems have been arising, you know, because I'm sure a lot of people would think that Guns N' Roses and Metallica, you know, the kind of tour, it's just, I mean, it's an amazing idea for the fans especially.
Well, really there's no problems at all. I mean, like I said before, both bands are great friends, and you know, I'm sure people could see how it would be like, oh, we're competing for the top spot, but it's not like that, you know. It's like we're both rock and roll bands, and we want to tour together, and that's that. Simple as that, you know.
So it's not any kind of clash of egos, it's just two huge bands that want to play together.
Yeah, two bands who want to play together.
With a third band, Faith No More.
Of course, yeah.
Okay. Right now, let's play a video from Guns N' Roses, which was actually, even though it appeared on the last album, one of your older songs, right?
It was like, if not the first song we ever wrote, yeah.
Here's RFK in Washington, D.C., and we're about to kick off an hour of Guns N' Roses. In a half an hour, you're going to see a half hour of live Guns N' Roses performances. And right now, it's Guns N' Roses, past, present, and future.
Axl Rose is cleaning up his act. He's following a strict health food diet. But as he guns for good health, his gorgeous girlfriend refuses to take the low-cal bait. Supermodel Stephanie Seymour has lost patience with the new improved Axl, so she's kissing him goodbye.
Guns N' Roses pay-per-view concert from Paris Saturday night. You may have been wondering why guitar great Jeff Beck failed to show as promised. Well, Beck was in Paris, but he was unable to play because he's suffering from tinnitus, the same ringing in the ears affliction that troubles Pete Townsend of The Who. Beck's doctor told him to try playing, but apparently the pain in his ear got bad enough after a rehearsal that Beck had to bow out. Former Guns N' Roses guitarist Izzy Stradlin, who left the band in the midst of its tour last winter, has been working on his debut solo album. His band includes Rick Richards on lead guitar, Jerry Ashurst on bass, Charlie Quintana on drums, and Izzy's co-producer Eddie Ashworth on mandolin. We dropped by the Chicago studio where he and his band have been recording to see what Izzy's stuff sounds like. Izzy's debut solo album should be out later this year, when Kurt Loder will also conduct an in-depth interview with Stradlin.
This one from London, where our colleagues at MTV Europe witnessed Queen guitarist Brian May and Guns N' Roses sharing a stage for the first time since the Freddie Mercury tribute concert this past spring. This time Guns N' Roses were on tour in London, and May dropped by to play on two Queen classics, We Will Rock You and Tie Your Mother Down. Here's how it went. Elsewhere, the World Tour in Munich last Saturday night warmed up for that show 2 days earlier with a performance at an abandoned railway station outside of town, at which he was backed by Guns N' Roses guitarist Slash, former Living Colour bassist Muzz Skillings, and Chic drummer Tony Thompson. The session was filmed for an upcoming video for a song off Jackson's current album called Give In To Me. Guns N' Roses singer Axl Rose was arrested at New York's John F. Kennedy International Airport on Sunday morning as he disembarked with his girlfriend, model Stephanie Seymour, and her 2-year-old son from a Concorde flight from Europe, where the couple had been vacationing prior to the start of a Guns N' Roses tour with Metallica, which is scheduled to get underway this coming Friday in Washington, D.C. A warrant for Rose's arrest had been issued several months earlier by a prosecutor in St. Louis, who had been trying for months to get Rose to return to that city to face misdemeanor assault and property damage charges stemming from a riot that erupted at a Guns concert there 1 year ago. Rose was jailed in New York for 10 hours, then released on $100,000 bail, following which he hopped into a limousine headed for a Manhattan hotel, and we hopped in with him.
Actually, you all right?
I'm doing great. I'm doing great.
What happened?
The prosecutor reneged on a promise he made. I'm going there on the 15th, and he said this wouldn't happen, and he lied.
You gonna be out soon?
I think so.
Rose had been arrested on an outstanding warrant issued months ago by a prosecutor in St. Louis named McCulloch, who had been trying for nearly a year to get Rose to return to that city to answer to 4 misdemeanor assault charges and 1 misdemeanor property damage charge stemming from a riot at a Guns N' Roses concert in St. Louis last July. After 3.5 hours at the Queens Courthouse, Rose was released on $100,000 bail and an agreement that he would finally fly back to St. Louis this week, as he'd already planned to do. We jumped into a limo with him for an exclusive interview on the way back to his hotel in Manhattan and asked him how he'd been treated in jail. What do they do when they put you in jail? Did you have a cell by yourself, or were there other people? Did you get to talk to any other inmates or anything?
No, I basically spent my time writing autographs for cops and talking with them about rock and roll. I met all these really cool cops that were telling me all about when they went to Woodstock and everything. It was great. New York cops are the best.
The question in many observers' minds, of course, was why Rose didn't just return to St. Louis to plead his case months ago. According to Rose, it's taken this long to work out an ironclad deal, which, as things stand now, means a sentence of 2 years probation reduced to 1 year.
We've just been waiting till, to get the case somewhat solidified and in writing before we go, because I don't want to go there and get set up. You know, well, you come here, it's going to be like this, and then it's a whole different story, and you end up sitting in St. Louis for a long time.
What does probation mean? You can't do it, come back to St. Louis and do something bad, or you can't do something bad anywhere in the country?
It's like anywhere. It's anywhere, but I'm not really worried about any of that because I really don't spend my time breaking the law, so I'm not really worried about that. It just depends on, you know, if you play someplace where somebody doesn't like rock and roll or Guns N' Roses, they could say I did something. you know, you never know what will happen with that.
And what exactly happened at that St. Louis concert 1 year ago? Did Rose provoke a riot, or was he simply reacting to a collapse in concert security? Here's what he told us.
We have tape of one guy on stage with a knife, and we lost $1 million worth of equipment in that show, and I don't see anybody else taking any responsibility for anything. I'm saying, yeah, I jumped off stage, and yeah, things went haywire after that, and maybe I could have handled it better or whatever, but no one was really handling anything at that point, so I took it into my own hands with what I could do, and what crossed my mind that time, because I've been pretty much pushed to the limit by their lack of security. But I don't see anybody else in St. Louis really taking any responsibility for anything that happened.
Rose flew to St. Louis on Monday and is expected to turn himself into local authorities there early Tuesday morning. Man Axl Rose finally turned himself into authorities in St. Louis on Tuesday afternoon, more than 1 year after the riot-plagued Guns N' Roses concert there, for which a St. Louis prosecutor has been seeking to formally file charges against Rose ever since. Tastefully attired in what appeared to be a salmon-colored Versace suit, Rose appeared before a local judge and pleaded not guilty to 4 charges of misdemeanor assault and 1 count of misdemeanor property damage stemming from the concert, which ended in a riot last July 2nd. Rose was given a trial date of October 13th and told that he could travel in connection with the big Guns N' Roses Metallica tour that starts in Washington, D.C. this Friday, but that if he gets into any further legal trouble, his $100,000 bail could be revoked and he could find himself in jail. St. Louis authorities contend that Rose sparked the riot at that concert last summer when he jumped into the crowd. Rose, however, says he felt he had to take matters into his own hands because security at the show had... Rounding out the live Guns N' Roses experience these days are backup singers, an all-female horn section, and utility player and singer Teddy Andreas, who previously worked with singer-songwriter Carole King.
We got a guy named Teddy Andreas, and he does harmonica, which is on songs like Bad Obsession, and he plays organ. He's a great organ player, and he's just a great background vocalist.
And it's fun having this whole, you know, entourage out in the road, you know, like 5 girls and Ted, and the rest of us, it's a circus, you know.
A circus indeed. With only 3 full albums to their credit, Guns N' Roses have already stirred up enough controversy to fuel a 20-year career. And while the band continues to grow and change, its members remain scruffy and stubborn and determinedly true to the musical beliefs that inspired them in the first place.
And I have to usually somewhat keep it a bit controlled and stuff so things don't get crazy and stuff. But, you know, I was out signing autographs and talking to other people tonight. I've always been the one, you know, the type to take the time out to talk to people. It's like when it comes down to it, that's where we're happening. With Guns N' Roses fans, there's a lot of Axl, you know, but it's like this is a band and I wouldn't be able to do what I do the way I do it and wouldn't be able to get the recognition if I didn't have the band I have being supportive and playing the music that they play that makes me run around and stuff. You know, we all pretty much get off on each other a lot. Right now we don't use a set list. We just pick song to song on how it feels and what we think we can perform best and what I think vocally I can do better. Take it slow and things will work out fine. 'Cause all we need is just a little patience. We go out and it's real for us. It's like the first couple songs we feel what the crowd's like, and it's not an easy thing to do to be able to, you can't fake it. You know, so we go out there and do it the way we do it.
When it comes down to it, I mean, we really are just a touring band, and that's what we're geared toward, and that's what we should be doing, and that's what we're gonna do.
Having conquered the hard rock precincts of their native land, Guns N' Roses next set out to whip the rest of the world into line with its non-stop 3-hour live show. Nearing the start of its 2nd year on the road, the band played a massive combination AIDS benefit and tribute concert near London for the late Freddie Mercury, frontman for one of Guns' all-time favorite bands, Queen.
The idea behind the whole concert the fact that it was completely sold out before they knew who was on the bill, talking about the public, and it sold out the way it did, gave it a sort of certain kind of energy to the AIDS awareness thing, especially in the rock and roll circle. And losing Freddie to it was, you know, like a catastrophe, and it turned everybody's